All right. Well, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I've got 11:29 a.m. Eastern Time. My name is Daniel, and I'm with VantagePoint AI. Today's October 10th, and we've got some things to talk about. We've got some markets to dig into and discuss. So I'm going to give everybody a chance to get into the session, make sure that audio is working okay, make sure that you can see my screen okay, so that we can have a highly interactive session. So if you are in our live right now, welcome. If you can hear me and everything is working on your side of things, hop into the chat. This is a live session. I love chatting with you. If you haven't attended one of these sessions before, welcome. If you have, thanks for coming back. Right? Always an opportunity. If there's an opportunity that we take to help educate and provide information related to the markets utilizing artificial intelligence, we'd love to take that opportunity. So, hey, Aziz. Hello, hello. Frank, hello. Corey, nice to see you in here. Just checking the chat, keeping an eye on it, making sure that everything is working. Seems like everything is working as designed based on some of the chats I'm seeing come through, which is perfect. I've got my VantagePoint pulled up here. I'll change screens in just a moment. Just want to give everybody a chance to get involved. A lot of news, a lot of stuff, a lot of chatter going on in the markets lately. Tell me, what are some of the interesting points or chatter that you're interested in or hearing about or get involved, I guess that's what I'm saying. By the way, this is an educational event. It is a live event. I'm not providing any trading advice. I'm not telling you to do what to do with your money by any means. I'm here to provide you information related to what we're seeing in the VantagePoint software from an educational standpoint. Remember, trading is hard. It involves risk. You should not be trading with money that you can't afford to lose. That's why they call it risk capital, right? We're going to dive in here. Hey, what's going on, TM? Gigi, good morning. Brian, nice to see everybody. Good, Roman. Well, for those of you that have just joined, my name is Daniel. We're going to get things going. I got 11:31 a.m. Eastern Time. I am with VantagePoint AI. And what we do here at VantagePoint is we provide an incredible software program to help traders individually navigate the financial markets that utilizes artificial intelligence. It is a patented proprietary software program. But what I am going to do here today is just use VantagePoint, walk through the details, let you know what I'm seeing, let you know what we're talking about and hearing, so that you can, take that information back and use it how you please. Again, from an educational standpoint, my goal is to provide as much information as possible. Let me pull up VantagePoint for those of you that have not seen it before. This is VantagePoint here on the screen. You should be able to see it now. I've got the E-mini S&P 500. And all I want to do is understand what's going on from an S&P 500, because what we have this week is a lot of Fed conversation happening, right? Minutes coming out later in the week. We have the vice chair talking about, proceeding carefully, talking about rate hikes into the end of the year. We've got Treasury yield levels coming off 16-year highs and starting to drop. We have other Fed members talking about those yield levels, having an impact on future rate hikes. All of that stuff is creating a trader sentiment, if you will, a trader sentiment, a feeling, a notion that traders have about what the markets are expected to do as a reaction to that kind of information. Some of the other things that are impacting is the Middle East, what's going on. My heart goes out to everybody that's affected by what's going on in Israel and other places in the Middle East, Ukraine, and so much unrest that it is also causing a lot of trader sentiment, right? And then, of course, just as the markets work, there are global influencing factors that can drive things like the S&P 500. If you look on the screen, whether you're talking about interest rates, whether you're talking about yield levels, whether you're talking about unrest, oil prices, the dollar falling. We'll take a look at the dollar. Why is the dollar falling? Well, the comments from the Fed causing the dollar to fall. There's this influence to all of these things that are happening in the markets. And those influencing factors are the very things that are driving and influence the market, like the S&P 500. So if you look right here on the screen, what we're going to do today is we're going to walk through what the AI is saying about the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Dow. Then we're going to use that information to figure out what the market is expected to do from a sector standpoint. And then if we understand what the sectors are expected to do, which sectors are expected to be the strongest, we will go find some stock opportunities that the artificial intelligence forecasted for today's big moves, right? We're going to walk through that step by step so you can get a sense for how a process could work utilizing information like this. The first thing I want to point out on the screen is I have the S&P 500 up. I've got 3 months of data pulled up here. And what I'm looking at the S&P 500 right now is blue line. What I want to see from this blue line is I want to see whether or not it is above or below this gray line. This blue line is called a predicted moving average. And I from a trend standpoint, I put everything I've got on that blue line to say, hey, what is it saying about the future trend? This blue line is predicting, in this case, 2 days into the future, right? I also have a shorter term one. I have a blue line like this that can predict 1 day into the future. And then I have a longer term one that looks like this that is predicting 3 days into the future. For those of you that have never seen VantagePoint before or heard of VantagePoint before, I just wanted to give you that baseline so that we can all get on the same page here that what that blue line is designed to do is help me understand the direction that, in this case, the S&P 500 is expected to go. I'm going to go get a pen really quickly here. Just a second, something I can draw on the screen. Here we go. This blue line is what I'm talking about right here, and what we see here is that over the last several days, towards the end of last week, that blue line turned. It was going down, and then it started going up to the point that it's now crossing that gray line. The shaded area between those two lines is red in this case, and that red area is shrinking down as those lines converge on each other. That tells me there is a shift in the trend from bearishness to bullishness. At first it's bearish, and then it starts to consolidate here to the point that it's crossing from a bullish standpoint. So already the first thing that I'm seeing, thanks to the help of the artificial intelligence here, is that the trend shift is on from a bearish trend that's been going on for several weeks now to a bullish one. This is the 2-day forecast. Well, I can go grab that short-term crossover that I was talking about before, and I can see that last week on Friday, you can see the date here, 10/6. That date tells me that when that blue line crossed above and the shaded area went from red to green, that's where the AI in this software, VantagePoint, is telling me that this trend is expected to move higher Monday, and it did. And then the fact that the blue line is still above at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time last night, I would have seen that the trend is expected to continue higher on the S&P 500 today, right? So right now, from a trend standpoint, I'm pretty clear based on the fact that the long-term trend predictor has consolidated and stopped going down and started going up. The medium term is crossing that gray center line, and that short term has crossed on Thursday. Everything from a trend standpoint, I should say most things from a trend standpoint, are leading to consolidated to bullish. So now I know as a trader going into this week, because this is the information, the analysis I could have done this weekend, going into this week I could have been bullish and should have been bullish around the S&P 500 based on what the AI is doing. This is the first set of indicators that I'm looking at to draw that conclusion. By the way, these indicators that I'm talking about, as I said earlier, they're patented indicators. They're not just looking at the S&P 500. For those of you that have not been involved in VantagePoint at all, it's looking at over 30 markets that are driving influence and impacting the S&P 500. Could be the Dow, could be the dollar, gold, euro, so many global influencing factors. Hey, thanks for the cheers and the congratulations. I appreciate that. And the smiley faces. Thanks for getting involved. I love seeing that stuff come across my screen. So right now what we saw and what we see and what we're seeing is bullishness from the trend. Well, I have also the advantage of looking at a predicted high and a predicted low. This is a gray candle over here, over on the right. And what I'm looking for, because what the AI is doing is it's doing that global analysis, and it's telling me that today's high is expected to be higher than yesterday's. And today's low is also expected to be higher. So both of those, I said those backwards, but you get my point, is that both of them are saying we're expecting a higher high and a higher low, or bullishness from trend, a price action standpoint. And I know that because both ends, if you will, on that candle are green. So that predicted candle is giving me bullishness across the board there as well. I also see from a neural index standpoint, this is this bar down here across the screen. This is a strength indicator that I use in VantagePoint, and what it's telling me that I've got bullishness from a strength standpoint. And I've had bullishness from a strength standpoint since the beginning of the month almost. You can see 10.3 was here. That bar has been green the entire time, giving me more confidence in that bullishness. So basically what I've done so far is I've broken down, 6 indicators that are predictive indicators, and the majority of them are telling me bullishness. So as I think about the S&P 500, and as you see these forecasts, you can see very clearly we're getting bullish expectations and predictions over the next 1 to 3 days from the artificial intelligence. I also have these momentum indicators down here, and for those of you that like to read momentum indicators, these are predictive momentum indicators, and it's reading the predictive indicators that we just analyzed. And what it's saying is that, well, momentum on the 1-day momentum indicator shifted way back here, right? The hot pink or the fuchsia line is a 2-day predicted momentum indicator, and that shifted about here. And then the blue line, the navy blue line, shifted here from a momentum standpoint. So this is our 1, 2, and 3-day momentum, and you can see the shorter term, more sensitive indicator shifted way back here, and then the medium term or the 2-day momentum there and 3-day here. That supports the fact that momentum was already moving when the trend decided and price decided it was going to move along with it. As a matter of fact, it went momentum shifted, and then the strength shifted, and then price said, okay, now it's go time. I love when you can see that progression happen. I get fascinated by the markets, as you can tell. But when I see it happen with the artificial intelligence like that, the confidence that I feel when I see that, it's just incredible. And now, for those of you that don't know, let me back up. I've been utilizing this software for over a decade. I've got 12 years of experience in this software, over 25 years experience in the financial markets. And doing the analysis like this, step by step, really gives me incredible confidence on what's expected to happen because of the VantagePoint software. Now, I can also do analysis like this on any other market that I've got in the software. Here's the NASDAQ, and we can walk through the same analysis. Look, here's the E-mini NASDAQ. You can see that. I changed the market here, but imagine that the forecast matches, right? The forecast matches. I can even see that the momentum on the NASDAQ shift as early. Strength didn't shift as early as the ES, but when you take a step back and you realize that the ES had a very bullish forecast, it was there, it was clear, we walked through it step by step. And the NASDAQ had the same thing that happened slightly bit later. Well, then that gives me even more confidence around what's expected to happen, because these are all predictive indicators that are patented and are doing that global, we call it intermarket analysis, by the way. So all in all, what we've got from a S&P standpoint is bullish, a NASDAQ forecast, bullish. Here is the Dow forecast, right? Here is the Dow forecast. You can see the Dow has a similar forecast to the ES, but it's still bullish. A little bit slower moving on strength on the Dow, a little bit slower moving on the momentum of the Dow. Imagine that, right? Big blue chip moving a little bit slower, but you can see from a forecast standpoint that we're getting the same forecast as of 6:30 p.m. last night, the same forecast that we got on the ES, the NASDAQ, and the Dow for the markets today and into the next couple of days. That kind of analysis, if you ask me, let me let's just get on the same page here. That kind of analysis is the kind of analysis that can help you make better trade decisions. When you walk through it step by step like that, logically, take the emotion out of it, use the predictive indicators. I think it's by now it's easy to see that that's the kind of analysis that you should be doing on a day in, day out basis. And then from there, you can take it to the next level. right? You can do things like support and resistance. As a matter of fact, in the VantagePoint software, I use verified support and verified resistance zones that the software draws on the screen for me. And one of the things that I want to point out is that yesterday's market on the ES, by the way, we're looking back at the ES, I changed the market so you can see, came up and broke that resistance level that was set a couple of weeks ago. Well, when it broke that resistance level that was set a couple of weeks ago, it couldn't stay above it. Look, you see that little shadow, that wick right there? The price went above that resistance level that was set back here and then failed back below it. Well, what do we need? Pop quiz. If you guys could go over to the chat box really quickly and just get involved with me. When you see prices fail off of a resistance level like that, what do we need to see in order to expect price to continue past that? What indicator, what information, what type of analysis according to price would you need to support the fact that prices could continue higher? And if you get that analysis, you can have the confidence you need for more bullishness. This is a learning environment. Like I said, this is pure education, so no answer is a wrong answer. My hope is that you just get involved in the conversation so that at the end of the session today, you can walk away with information that is valuable and usable. I'm going to give the answer here in about 5 seconds. So if you want to jump in and test your knowledge or test maybe my question asking, my pop quiz, I don't know. Go over to the chat box and get involved there. By the way, for anybody that's in this session that is seeing some real value in VantagePoint, but maybe it's not something you have access to yet, you can go to VantagePointForecast.com and ask some individual questions offline with somebody on our team here, one-on-one. All right, the answer to the question is momentum. We need to see bullish momentum that could overtake that resistance level. Old price points create resistance, and one of the only things besides volume is momentum. We need to see bullish momentum and volume to push through that. So part of my analysis is to go to that level, and I can put volume on the screen and I can see I've got bullish volume. You can see those big green volume bars there at the bottom. And then I can go put some momentum indicators, the ones that I choose to use, and it's completely up to you whether or not you like these or use these, is MACD. I like to use predicted RSI, predicted stochastics, predicted percent R. I've even gone as far as using predicted fractal RSI. But these are momentum indicators that I will layer onto my analysis, right? That I like to layer onto my analysis to understand what's going on here. Here we go, look. There. Bullish momentum from stochastic, predicted RSI, predicted stochastic, predicted percent R. And I can see that I've got bullish momentum. You know what? Let's go put on predicted MACD. There you go. We have predicted MACD in the VantagePoint software as well, and you can see, look at that. I want to show you guys something really quickly. This is bullish because we came out of that RSI came out of that oversold range and is pointed up. We've got stochastic momentum bullish because we came out of oversold and the blue line is above, which is a predicted stochastic. Same thing on percent R. Look at MACD. Fresh bullish crossover on that MACD, which is a predicted MACD. So the answer to my question or my quiz is, yeah, absolutely. I've got bullishness, and I'm gonna highlight it or just kind of box it in for you guys. I've got bullishness right here on the right-hand side of the chart. And by the way, I see so many people that read left-hand side of the chart and try to figure out what's going to happen. I am reading the right-hand side of the chart as of the latest update. If you've got the VantagePoint software, you're probably seeing this on your software. You've got nothing different than I do. I just choose to use different indicators on top of the VantagePoint default indicators. And at the end of it, I've got bullishness with really no question on whether or not there is bullishness on the S&P 500. Now, let me ask a question. Oh, let me see. I got something. I don't know what you mean. Somebody said bottom line remains green. Help me understand which bottom line. Are you talking about the neural index box here, or are you talking about support? What line are we talking about here? And I'm glad to kind of walk through your question and make sure I get it answered. I think you should point. I don't. Haddad, let me know what you're asking. All right, I'm going to keep on moving along because this kind of analysis, although it's happening on the ES, can also be done on the VIX, the volatility index for the ES. And what I would expect to see on the volatility index is the opposite of everything I just saw on the ES if I really think there is bullishness here. Why? Because if volatility is going down, then the market, the ES, is expected to go up. The S&P 500 will rise on dropping volatility. Well, we can see we are getting the opposite that I was just talking about. We're getting some pretty big volatile candles, which you guys could see right there on the screen. But the short-term crossover crossed last week to the downside, the medium term crossing right now, and the long-term, let's see, consolidating. So we are getting the opposite of the S&P 500. Matter of fact, I can drag this out to the side and show you them side by side. Check this out. I like to do this with the VIX and the S&P primarily because they are basically the inverse. If the VIX is falling, the S&P 500 is usually rising, and if the VIX is rising, the S&P 500 is usually falling. And I am going to go to the short-term crossover. Now we have basically the same analysis, and I can even zoom in for you if you just want to look at the right-hand side of the chart. There we go. There's 1 month, 1 month. Look. Bearish, 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 bullish, 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 bullish. That's what I would expect to see if I am expecting the S&P 500 and the stock market to increase, to be bullish. It's exactly what I'd be looking for, and I see it. Does anybody see it? Does everybody see it, I should say? Are you seeing what I'm getting at when I look at the VIX, right? If you are, hop over to the questions box and let me know. Brian, I'm not sure which ones you're talking about. If you're talking about the, Brian's question is, do these indicators cost extra? No. You know, that's something I'm happy to talk with you one-on-one. I'm not here to sell VantagePoint by any means. Some of the indicators are default right out of the box. Some of them are add-on indicators that are optional that you could buy as well. You know, if you're a VantagePoint user, Brian, reach out to your coach. I'm sure they'd be happy to answer your questions, or somebody in VantagePoint University. Gigi sees it. Good. Okay, good. Thank you for getting involved, Gigi. I appreciate that. Yeah. So we see what's happening. It's clear. We can expect bullishness. Now, the question that I said I was gonna look at before, somebody had asked about the dollar, and we'll get to the dollar. But the question I asked before is, what do we turn to? If you didn't read the YouTube description, what I said is we will scan and find opportunities now that we have this information. So let's do that. I am going to open IntelliScan. And for those of you that know what IntelliScan is, this is our scanning tool that uses the AI predictive indicators to find opportunities. You guys know you probably use it day in and day out. And if you're not, my opinion is everybody should be using it if you're looking for a new opportunity. If you're not, well, then you don't need to scan for anything, right? But I am going to open a scan that I like to call the sector scan. And the reason I'm going to open the sector scan is because now that I've got bullishness forecasted in the stock market, I need to see which sectors are expected to be the most bullish. And for my analysis, I like to do a top down and walk through the overall market, get a good market overview, and then go down to the sectors and then individual assets. And then from there, I can go into the futures markets, then I can go into currencies and things like that. So here is the IntelliScan for the sectors. And you'll notice that this IntelliScan has 17 different ETFs in it. I find that this is the fastest, easiest way to figure out which sector is expected to go along with the overall market. Again, I'm not interested in going against the stream, if you will. There are a lot of great counter trend trading opportunities. I could go there. I will go there. I have gone there many times. But I start with going with the stream to see if there's a lot of good opportunities along with it, because there's no reason to go against it, in my opinion. Again, from an educational standpoint, I'm not providing trading advice here. I'm going to go look at what's going along with it. So these 17 ETF tickers help me kind of get a view of certain sectors. And I can see the two strongest sectors right now. And by the way, what all I'm looking at, again, is the crossover, the 3-day, the 2-day, right? I've taken those indicators basically off the chart, put them in the scan, right? And here's the neural index, that green bar at the bottom. Here's the differences. I've put them in the scan to help me understand which sectors are making the move. Here you go. The tech spider, and communication services, right? Now, communication services is a services sector. In case you're wondering what's in it, because a lot of times people aren't quite sure, you're going to get things like, I think the biggest holdings are Meta, Google, Netflix. So let's start there. Let's go to the biggest holdings in XLC, Meta. So we got bullishness from the S&P, the Dow, and the NASDAQ. We got bullishness from XLC. Meta is one of the holdings of the ETF XLC. And look at the bullish. Oh, wow, this bullishness happened back here. So the question we have to answer, because this was where VantagePoint, the artificial intelligence, said Meta is expected to move higher. It's 929, right? I think you can see that pretty clearly there based on the analysis we just did and kind of walk through. As long as that blue line stays above, I can expect Meta to continue higher. At 6:30 last night, here is the analysis that the artificial intelligence did on Meta. And in case you're wondering, let me show you really quickly. Some of you may not have seen this before, but to do the analysis on Meta, this is what the AI is looking at. And it does it for every single stock. You can see really quick. Here's Meta in the middle. But it's looking at CoStar Group, Cinemark Holdings, gold, the US dollar, natural gas. There is over 30 markets on this list. Before any forecast is done on Meta platforms, it's looking at these stocks and ETFs and futures markets like the Japanese yen. This is that patented process that the AI is doing for those of you that hadn't seen it before. It's going to do it for every asset available in the software before it draws any of these predictive indicators. So what we see here is that Meta is expected to continue bullishly. We got a predicted high and a predicted low that are higher. Both of them are expected to be higher, and we're seeing bullishness across the board. I got to tell you, there's a lot of bullishness going on, and VantagePoint forecasted it through the weekend, into yesterday's market, into today and tomorrow's market. I wouldn't have any concern that Meta, this position on Meta would be a safe one from 929. Based on what the forecast is saying, right? Look on the right-hand side of the chart. Based on what the forecast is saying on the right-hand side of the chart, more bullishness expected in Meta. Anybody here holding Meta, or trading it, buying options, or you know, in a long position on Meta, that kind of information would have helped with? Hey, Vasu. Your question about the SPY predictions. We did the S&P 500. Yeah, absolutely, which is the SPY. I can certainly pop up the SPY really quickly so you can see it, but it's going to look just like the S&P 500 in the futures markets. There you go, my friend. Same kind of situation. Bullishness expected there. Meta is up almost 2% today, guys. Meta's up almost 2%. VantagePoint indicated and forecasted a predicted high of 322.38. 322.38 is a great high level. We also have this old resistance point up here at 326. So we could be anywhere from the middle of that gray bar all the way up to 326, and we are seeing that exactly as was forecasted with the artificial intelligence. Man, I just gotta tell you, I love this stuff. All right, so Meta was one of the markets that we were talking about. The other market, I think, was Google and Netflix. So let's pull up Google. Okay, look, 10-2. When did Meta cross? Meta crossed over 929, so the day before. So both of these stocks had a bullish forecast at the beginning of the month. 929 and Google here on 10-2. Blue line crossed above, neural index was green, predicted differences all pointed up going into that day. Again, what I'm doing is I'm looking right here, bullish, here, bullish. And moving into that dotted line, I want to see those moving higher, bullish, bullish, bullish. I can layer on momentum. I can layer on seasonal indicators. I have, what I love about this software is it gives me exposure to non-redundant indicators. I can do momentum and seasonal and earnings and anything related to price, support and resistance. I can do volatility indicators like ATR. It gives me that flexibility. But what I'm seeing here is bullishness. Again, same situation, analyzing the right-hand side of the screen, right? If anybody's likes to trade Google, there you go. Right-hand side of the screen is saying bullishness on Google across the board and expected to continue today and into tomorrow. And I don't see any reason why that would change. Google's at 139.53. Let's see. The high expected. Look, right here. When I click on this gray bar, case you're not quite sure where to look, here's the predicted high, 140.08. So Google again. Now remember how we got here. S&P, Dow, NASDAQ, all were giving us bullishness, right? Then we went and checked, from there we checked the volatility index, the VIX, indicating bearishness, which would push the market higher. From there, we did our sector scan to say, all right, what sector is expected to move? And you can see we found 2 ETFs. Now I'm looking at the holdings for those 2 ETFs, some of the big holdings. There are some great bullish opportunities, and if you missed them, you can see how this step-by-step process can work, right? Let's go check XLK. XLK is what? Apple, Microsoft. Here we go. So we know XLK. Well, in case you didn't know, that's some of the big holdings here. There we go. Apple's got a nice fresh forecast, 10.5, indicating bullishness going into today. You guys can see this on the right-hand side of the screen. This is a pretty new forecast, and I love this because that bullishness is absolutely clear going into 10.5, forecasting bullishness 10.6, which was Friday, right? Might have been Thursday. Regardless, you can see the dates here. There's 10.6, here's 10.9, today is 10.10. Bullishness, bullishness, bullishness as we look at Apple, which is one of the XLK stocks, and XLK was expected to be higher as well, right? So let's say, Brian, I see your question. How do we use a predicted price range to know when to enter a trade? Brian, it sounds like you're probably a VantagePoint user. That's fantastic. I'm going to throw a heart your way, which is great. So when you look at this, you can see that there is bullishness. If I hadn't seen this crossover, if I didn't do my scan last week, if I wasn't in this position and I was thinking this was an opportunity for me, let me walk you through how you can use this software to generate and find an opportunity for you, okay? Bullish on the right-hand side of the screen, right? There you go. Doug, tell me what you're not seeing. I'm happy to show it to you. 10.9, 6:30 p.m. last night. 10.9, right? At 6:30, I'm just putting it on the screen. I see this and I say, okay, VantagePoint's artificial intelligence is telling me Apple is expected to be bullish today, which is supported by XLK expected to be bullish today, which is supported by the NASDAQ, the S&P, and the Dow expected to be bullish today. That's my hypothesis. That's my expectation here, is that Apple is expected to be bullish today. So if I'm looking to potentially take a position, oh, thank you, I appreciate that. Now you can see it. There it is. Let's go back to it. Sometimes that happens. This is a live session, right? How far back do I need to go? The whole Apple analysis? Sorry about that, folks. Thank you for letting me know in the comments that we're good to go. There we go. Here's the crossover. Here is Apple. Bullish, 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 just to kind of reset where I was when I wasn't sharing my screen. How fun was that, right? Just watching me talk, that's still fun. That's still fun. All right, so what we're looking at here is we can see all of that bullishness. So Brian's question is, well, let's say I didn't see it and I wanted to use this to get in. Let me give you the simplest way, Brian, is you've got a predicted high and a predicted low here, right? I can take my cursor and I can put it right in the center of that gray candle, right? If I put it right in the center of that gray candle, what does that tell me? That tells me the midpoint, 179.15. I could also, for those of you that like to prefer to do the math, I can go right over here and it tells me the range is $4.07. I can take half of that, which is $2 and call it 3 cents, $2.04, right? I can take that low of 177.26 and I can add $2.04 to that and I end up at 179.30, something like that, right? So no matter what, whether I did it with math or I did it by eyeballing it, I got to the center of that candle. What I'm looking for at that point is an entry point that is at, around, or slightly below 179.32, Brian. And the reason why I'm looking for an entry that is below 179.32 on the open is because I want that market to move from at least that midpoint to that high point if I can get it, because that means on the first day, during the day, today, I would be in the money right away, right? Now, some people will look for an entry somewhere near that low. Highly unlikely, which is why I use that midpoint mark on that predicted candle to say, okay, if I can get anything at 179.30 and below, anything in that range or around it, maybe if it's 179.40, 179.45, that's up to you. Your risk tolerances and how tight you play that is going to be a decision on your point. Just know the midpoint of that predicted candle is going to be a point that you can use to as a reference point for the open. What I want to see, I could either set it at an entry at night. Maybe I work during the day and I don't have a chance like I do to look at the markets throughout the day. Last night you can go in and set an entry at 179 if you wanted to. And as long as the market opens below that 179.32, or maybe you set your limit order at 179.32, right? I'm not going to set a market order at the open, because if it gaps on the open, I don't want to get in long at the top of that gap, right? So I can set a limit, again, education only. I can set a limit order and say, look, 179.32 is the highest point I want to buy in at. I can set a limit order there. And as long as I get it open below that and it rises to that 179.32, it'll fill my order, most likely. Sometimes it goes so fast, it jumps your order. That's going to happen. You're not going to get filled. Nothing's perfect. But Brian, to answer your question, I think you can see where if I had done that, or you had done that based on that kind of process, that would have been picked up. Well, would it have been picked up? I guess I should say. Let's see. Yeah, opened at 178.10. So Apple's open was 178.10. It's currently at 179.54. So it certainly would have picked up that 179.30 entry, and it would have picked up 20 cents in gains using that kind of strategy that I just walked through. Was that helpful? Let me know. Give me a heart, give me a thumbs up, give me a comment, something in the chat box, Brian, or anybody else that was wondering, how do I use that predictive bar for a potential entry? Because that's one strategy. There are multiple strategies, right? But from an educational standpoint, I think that is probably the simplest one, the fastest one, the one that you can use regardless of the market. All right. What was the other one? Microsoft is a big. Nvidia is a big one, right? For XLF. There you go. Up to 3 days, Noor. Noor's question is, can you tell one more time about Apple? Apple has bullishness. It was bullish from 10.5. That's when the artificial intelligence forecasted bullishness. That bullishness on that day was expected to go long or be long for 1, 2, and 3 days. We're getting exactly that. Today's forecast is continuing that into that week, Noor. Okay. Microsoft, let's see if we're, oh, wow. Check it out. I went from Apple to Microsoft and it almost looked identical. I had to double take. And that's similar to what we saw with the Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P, right? Similar situation is where we saw that bullishness, and moving into that day, we had bullish momentum happening. I can certainly layer on my other indicators. We were talking about that briefly before. Like if I want to see the momentum, or if I want to see support and resistance, I can see I've already broken in that resistance level, and I've got plenty of room on Microsoft to that next resistance level. I've got bullishness on Microsoft with a predicted high and a predicted low that are bullish as well. You know, whether or not this thing has an up day or a down day or not, what VantagePoint is saying is that we can expect it to range between 331.90 and a low of 326.58, somewhere in that range, which is going to be a higher trading range today than yesterday. And I would expect to see Microsoft slightly higher than yesterday. Now, what was the other one? Netflix? NFL? No, NVIDIA. Was it NVIDIA? I think that's a pretty big holding for XLK. Yeah, similar type analysis here on NVIDIA. You can see that bullishness happening across the board there. This is actually, this is similar to the Google forecast we were looking at. If we go back to Google, you can see 10.2, Meta, it was Meta, 9.29. So Meta and NVIDIA made the move the same day, 9.29. You know, NVIDIA still has bullishness in it. Some of the momentum's waning a bit, but VantagePoint is saying NVIDIA is still expected to rise And all we got bullishness across the board on those indicators. So what we did, for those, if anybody joined late, let me just kind of walk through what we've done here, is that we did analysis on the ES, the NASDAQ, the Dow, to figure out that there's overall bullishness in the markets. Then I did a scan on the sectors to figure out which sectors were expected to be the most bullish along with the overall stock market. And we came up with XLC and XLK, so communication and services and technology. And then we looked at some of the biggest holdings for those two ETFs, and we could see the bullishness there. All of that creating potential profitable opportunities to the long side, whether you're talking about options and you're buying calls, whether you're talking about simply buying the underlying asset. Maybe you like to, in this case, sell puts because you're a long-time holder in this. No matter how, from a trading strategy, you want to play that information, it's safe to say it was pretty clear that there's forecasted bullishness. Now, I can even take it a step further and say, you know what? We've done that analysis. Now, let's go find other stocks that could be in these sectors that are reversing bullishly. I've created a scan here. I'm not going to walk through and build the scan in this session because I imagine there's people here that don't have IntelliScan or VantagePoint. And if you don't, by the way, but you're seeing something you like, just go to VantagePoint software, VantagePoint Forecast, VantagePointForecast.com, and you can get any questions you want answered there that you don't want to ask here. Hey, Brian, thank you. Brian says, that's beautiful. I was conflicted today on the predicted low on Q and was waiting for the pullback. Okay. All right. It rallied from 366. Yep. All right. So that midway point is something that you see a lot of value in. Good. All right. So here's the scan that I wanted to show you. And the reason I wanted to show you this is because there are 1,671 different opportunities being scanned. And when I say opportunities, I'm talking about stocks, individual stock forecasts. Now, this scan has filtered out over 1,500 of them, and it's left me with 75. These 75 were going down, and now are forecasted to start going up. I always get this question from people about, can AI help me find bottoms and tops? And the answer to that is no, but it can get you a whole lot closer. Remember, from a trending standpoint, if forget what's on the screen, I'm just going to draw a picture here. If this is the uptrend, right? And without the artificial intelligence, let's say you can pick up this much of the trend, right? Without the benefit of AI, you can pick up that much of the trend, the blue section of it. That's a winning trade. That's a winning trend, let's say, that middle section. Well, then let's say you add something like VantagePoint's artificial intelligence if you don't already have it, and now you can pick up this much of the trend. The yellow section would be, let's say, as an example, this is just a crude metaphor, right? Just a visual. That's almost twice as much by getting an earlier entry and an earlier, a longer exit, holding on longer through that trend. It's kind of a funny face if you turn your head sideways, by the way. But you get my point here is that artificial intelligence is not going to find every single trend every single time from the beginning to the end. It's not an ATM. You don't push boop, boop, AI and money starts shooting out at you. No, it's about picking up more by getting better entries, better exits, better position management, finding opportunities you're missing. That's how I use this tool. That's how I use this technology. All right. So in this scan, I've got 75 things, 75 stocks that were going down and now are expected to go up. And they've got momentum going along with them. They've got some strength along with them. They're optionable. They've got high dollar volume. So I've got several filters in this scan that are designed to go find things that are predicted to trend higher, that have predicted higher strength, that have bullish momentum, a predicted price range that's higher, and good volume. So I basically built this to go find those fresh opportunities, right? All right. Good. Nora, I'd love to catch bottoms and tops, right? But the expectation, Nora says, that's great. Never can catch bottom and top. Sure. If somebody can tell you they can catch a bottom and a top perfectly, you got to ask yourself, do they have credibility? Do they have history? Are they able to do it? Because that's very hard to do. somebody tells you they can get you much more of that trend, closer to the bottoms of the tops, like the artificial intelligence, I would beg you to ask the same questions. Do you have the credibility? Do you have the history, the proven results? Software that I use, this software we're talking about, has been doing what I'm showing you now since 1991. Right? That's over 30 years of using AI in the financial markets. Our company has been doing market analysis since 1979 through the help of software. So we've got the credibility, we've got the history, we've got the patents. I'm showing you how to use it. Right? Good. Thank you, Nora. I appreciate that confidence. All right. So one thing I want to point out, I have a bunch of sectors here out of these 75 opportunities. I got a bunch of sectors. You guys can see that, right? Well, if I want to go along with the stream, like I was saying earlier, I can narrow this down and say, you know what? Let's just look at the technology sector. Here are 11. Now I've whittled 1,671 stocks. Excuse me. Down to 11. Down to 11. Doing that level of analysis. And there's several stocks in here that I, want to possibly take a look at and understand if there's an opportunity, that there's something there that can help me. I can see that some of them have been going down for a long time. Look at this. CCI has been going down for 24 days. FI has been going down for 21 days, right? And then they had fresh crossovers. The short term and the medium term crossed and moved higher. Oh, here's T-Mobile, right? T-Mobile, I can go look at that forecast. Enphase, look, here's another one. Technology, look, I've got several stocks here. Here's T-Mobile. So T-Mobile, if you look at this, this is a fresh crossover. Why? I say the term fresh. Let me tell you what I mean. At 6:30 last night, the AI said things have shifted enough that the AI is calling bullishness over the next 1 to 3 days for T-Mobile. We got a blue line that just crossed above that gray line. That's why I call it a fresh crossover, right? I got the neural index, green. I got the predicted differences, momentum, bullish on T-Mobile. Predicted high, higher, predicted low, higher. So I've got a great forecast on T-Mobile. If I cut that predicted bar in half, I'm looking at about 140, what is that, 141, 140 and change. Let me get my cursor on there. Yeah, there you go. 140 to 140 and 50 cents would be a great idea from an entry point standpoint using that analysis that we just talked about. And that gives you the ability to say, okay, if I get that open on T-Mobile using this information, let's see if we've got enough room from support and resistance. Like I can layer on, yeah, we got room from support and resistance. Heck, there's almost a buck there. From yesterday's close to that next resistance level is almost $1. Yeah, there you go. We just found another opportunity that supports our hypothesis of bullishness and could create some good trending opportunities and some potential gains, right? Right? Let's see. If the market sells off, the lines cross each other. Yeah, right. Forecasting it bullishly and bearishly, it's the same. Like here's the forecast of the downside, Noor. By the way, it looks like you may not be a VantagePoint user. If you want to dig into this in more detail than I can do in a live session here, I'd love to do that with you. Just go to VantagePointForecast.com and let me know if that's something you'd like to do. Here's the other one, Enphase. There you go. You want to see a forecast, a sell-off? Look at this. If I put the long-term crossover on this, you can see that Enphase, at any point before this is before earnings. This by the way, this blows me away. Anytime I see this, I got to call it out. Here's when earnings came out, right? There was a gap down after earnings came out. Look at when the artificial intelligence said Enphase was expected to start falling. This is for Nora because he was asking about a sell-off and cross to the downside. VantagePoint indicated that back here. And it's been going down ever since until 6:30 p.m. Eastern time last night. 6:30 p.m. Eastern time last night, Enphase was expected to move higher. Neural index was green. Predictive differences pointed up. We got it out of our scan. When it comes out of the scan, I still need to do some visual inspection. But if you look at the scan, there's Enphase right there saying, yep, fresh crossover, lots of volume, has options, optionable stock, ENPH. The question is, did we get a move on EMPH to the bullish side based on what we were expecting on that candle? Let's look. Candle midway point, call that 120, 120.40, right in that range. As long as we got an open around that 120 mark, then that's a great opportunity for anybody that was using the VantagePoint software and had the benefit of this artificial intelligence last night. So far, we've been lights out. This has been a very, very good, good live session. I love the interaction, and you can see some of the incredible forecasts here in the VantagePoint software, right? Let's go. Let's go. Oh man, Brian, love it because of some of the confusion. You were paper trading the Qs. I'm just reading Brian's comment. He said my paper trade on the Qs using VantagePoint is up 218%. There you go, Brian. I love it, man. Hopefully, question, Brian, for you specifically and anybody else listening. This session today has helped clear up some of that confusion, right? Are you seeing the process that you can apply so that you can move from paper trading? Not that you have to, but if you wanted to, you know, is something like this helpful for you? All right. Earlier I had the request for the dollar, right? The dollar index. Now with the yield falling, what would you expect the dollar to do? With the market going up, what would you expect the dollar to do? What did VantagePoint say the dollar was expected to do? Look. 6:30 p.m. last night, VantagePoint indicated bearishness on the dollar, folks. Look at that. Predicted low, predicted low, predicted high and predicted low, both lower. We can see that VantagePoint was indicating bearishness on the dollar going into today. Matter of fact, VantagePoint's predicted low is somewhere around, what is that? 105.54. 105.54. You can go check out the dollar and see if it's down around that 105.50 mark and help you understand whether or not this artificial intelligence can give you a leg up. Because that's all I'm looking for, right? I'm just looking for an edge because you know and I know that trading is a dog-eat-dog world, right? Dog-eat-dog, right? Meaning for you to make money, somebody else has to lose. So why not stack the odds in your favor like I like to using the AI here? So there's the dollar. Mojo, Disney. We've talked about Disney before for you. Let's pull it up. Here's Disney. All right, so looking at the forecast, here's 3 months of Disney. VantagePoint forecasted an uptrend in Disney. Looks like it was starting to work its way there last week, Thursday, Friday. The short-term crossover happened on the 6th. So everything made its move on Disney on the 6th, indicating bullishness yesterday, continued with that bullish forecast today. Without walking through every forecast step by step, I think you can see on the right-hand side of the chart, we had Disney expected to be higher. Mojo, let me know in the questions box, chat box, if that was the case. I can go check it unless somebody else has a quick draw on the chat box. Disney. My chair is squeaky. Wow, I'm gonna get some grease or something. 85. So Disney's right here at 85. There you go. Yep. Right. See that? Let me just look through the chat and see if there's some other requests. And if you have a market you want to take a look at, maybe you don't have VantagePoint and you want to see me pull it up, let me know that as well, right? GC is being requested. All right, here's GC. GC being gold, by the way. GC being gold. So looking at the right-hand side of the chart, we got a shift happening on the gold. We can see that things shifting from bearish to bullish, right? The medium-term crossover, the one-day trend is shifting. There's consolidation there. The one-day trend forecast, bullish. The two-day, consolidated. And the three-day, consolidated. So we are getting, and the predicted high and predicted low. Look, you haven't seen one of these before, but look. When the high is expected to be higher from a predicted standpoint, and the low is expected to be lower from a prediction standpoint, you get two different colors. You get a green predicted bar and a red predicted bar on the ends. So again, that gives us consolidation. What does consolidation mean? When you stop and think about it, if the indicators are, some are saying bullish, some are saying bearish, and I say the words consolidation, what is the first thing that pops in your head? There you go, Mojo. Mojo took Disney yesterday. All right, good. So the question on the table is, when I say the words consolidation, what direction are you expecting the market to go? Because that's what we're seeing on GC. Who was asking for GC? Raf asked for GC, or asked for gold. There you go, GG. GG says sideways. So we have some indicators saying up, some indicators saying down, some consolidating. So, and you know what? Let's go put on our verified support and resistance. Why not? There we go. We are deep in that first support zone. So we're going to need some real good momentum to push lower. And we're going to need a lot more strength to push higher. So sideways is sideways. Yesterday's close on gold was 1864.30. I would expect gold to probably be right about there, right? Within $5, sideways is sideways. This is the candle of yesterday. I would expect it to be right there, right in that little range right there. Nothing too crazy going on from a gold standpoint. The yesterday's high was 1877. What VantagePoint is saying is don't expect gold to go higher than that. Sideways. Okay. Thank you, TG and Burl. Burl CLS. Here we go. All right, so similar. We got similar to the forecast we've looked at before with Google and Meta and some of the other ones. We are bullish from 927's forecast on CLS. VantagePoint has bullishness from a neural index standpoint. VantagePoint has bullishness on 927 from a momentum standpoint. Let's fast forward just because this trend has been going on to today. We got a very small range on the day, little tiny range, which says prices are expected to be a little higher, just not much, and probably sideways. And remember, there's always a chance that it's a down day. You have to remember that because this is where it closed yesterday. This is the low expectation of the day. That would be a red candle if that happened, but still, overall trend standpoint is still expecting some bullishness. Neural index green, we got this, look at this. This predicted difference has rolled sideways a little bit, so a little weakening. That makes me want to go to check my support and resistance. When I see a trend that's been going for over a week, and it has, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days. That's how long this trend has been going. And I see a little weakening happening. I want to check support and resistance. We are into a resistance level. I'm curious as to whether or not this this high of 2690 is a 52-week high. So I am going to pop that on there. It is. And I hadn't seen this one before, but you can see that is a 52-week high right here that hit yesterday, which means for prices to push past a 52-week high, for those of you that don't know what that is, that means this is the highest price in the last 1 year period, right? If that is the highest price in the last 1 year period, I am going to need some pretty strong momentum to push past that price on the following day. It's hard. It happens, but it's hard, and it's something that you've got to analyze to understand, in my opinion, whether or not that's expected. What I would need to see is a very positive slope to my momentum lines. I'm getting a little flattening here. I'm getting a definite flattening here. We do still have bullish momentum here and here. So I'm getting a little weakening in that momentum, which means I personally, if I was looking at this to do some analysis, this is risk mitigation time. Maybe not exit, When I say risk mitigation or position management, here's what I mean. Protect your downside. Protect your downside, right? Just from an educational standpoint, that's kind of my definition, which means I can look at the predicted low and see that the predicted low is expected to be 26.29. I need to set a stop loss somewhere near that, but not quite there. I could use this resistance level to set a stop loss at 25.24, which is also the low of the last 72 hours today, yesterday, and the day before. So I could use 25.24 as a potential stop loss level to protect my downside if I want to continue riding this position. What helped me come to that conclusion? The AI. That's it. All right, good. Last one, and then I'm going to cut out of here. I think we've had a good session today. Thank you for the interaction. General Mills for you. Pooja, here's General Mills. Big, huge downtrend forecasted on 7/28. And this thing has been falling ever since. There is a little bit of a reversal trying to happen right here, but we don't have the crossover yet. I'm not trying to outpredict the predictor. I am going to run through all my progression here. My short term, we do have a short term forecast crossover. My medium term, not yet. And my long term, consolidating. So we do have a shift trying to happen, but prices are still below what I like to look at, the T-cross long or the triple cross level. Prices are still well below that. This would be a high risk bullish opportunity based on what's going on. And that's one of the things I want to, let me make a point about that real quick before I cut you loose. Trading, you got to have a toolbox, right? I happen to have the most powerful tool in the world, in my opinion, in my toolbox in VantagePoint. But it's not the only tool. The other tool I can see is the market profile, the price profile of this. And it's going to take some real powerful momentum to get above this price here. Seeing something trending down like this for that long tells me that there could be some bullishness. If I can break above this level, if I can get above that support and resistance level, well, then there could be a good bullish opportunity. It's just premature at the moment. I would need to see prices work their way above 65.57 or at the minimum 64.36. Those two price levels are important levels before I can even, look at GIS as bullishly. It's just been going down for so long, so hard. And that's what I mean. Have your toolbox, use your toolbox, take out the emotion. And that's it for me. Today was a great session. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being involved. If you haven't subscribed to the VantagePoint AI channel on YouTube yet, hit subscribe. We do these sessions every couple of weeks or so. Happy to take your questions on the fly. As you can tell, I'm completely transparent. I'll show you what you want to see, how you want to see it, hopefully. And if not, you can always go to VantagePointForecast.com and get, individualized attention. That's it for me. Thank you for being here, and thank you for letting me give you the view from my vantage point. Have a great day, everybody.